Meanwhile, 5 minutes after the top of the hour, another Fox News alert. Breaking overnight, security concerns in Yemen forcing the State Department to close the U.S. Embassy there. Leland Vittert is in D.C. as officials say Yemen is not safe for Americans. Leland.
Well, Steve, good morning. Closing the U.S. Embassy in Yemen is a major blow to President Obama's foreign policy worldview. This was him in September of last year.
This strategy of taking out terrorists who threaten us while supporting partners on the front lines is one that we have successfully pursued in Yemen and Somalia for years.
Now the State Department says Yemen's capital is simply too dangerous to operate in. The French and British agree, pulling out their personnel now that an Iranian-backed militia toppled the government. Comes during a week of awful news for the administration in the fight against ISIS. And remember, ISIS still hasn't presented any evidence to prove their claims Kayla Mueller died in coalition airstrikes on their position. But the administration makes clear that they are holding ISIS responsible regardless. We're also learning more about Kayla's life in captivity. One report this morning says intelligence officials often spotted her in the same location as a high-level ISIS commander, leading at least one person to suggest she was in some type of terrible forced marriage. This comes as the president finally decides to seek congressional authorization for the use of force against ISIS. But the splitting of hairs continues on language. The latest iteration reportedly includes a 3-year sunset clause and a prohibition of enduring ground forces. Back to you guys.
All right, Leland Vittert in the D.C. Bureau with the very latest. Thank you.
Talk about language. You know, yesterday we told you about the story about President Obama's interview with Vox, where he downplayed the attacks in Paris, saying it was just a bunch of folks who randomly shot at some deli. Well,
randomly.
Random. It was all random, okay? They weren't going after anybody specific. Well, how about this? His administration spokespersons actually got out there and doubled down on the double down
all day
of the double down of just, we're just going to diminish the effect of what happened here. And this is their defense. Watch.
The adverb that the president chose was used to indicate that the individuals who were killed in that terrible, tragic incident were killed not because of who they were, but because of where they randomly happened to be.
They weren't killed because they were in a Jewish deli, though? They were in a kosher
John,
deli?
These individuals were not targeted by name. This is the point.
Not by name, but by religion, were they not?
Well, John, there were people other than just Jews who were in that deli.
Do you see any doubt that deli was attacked because it was a kosher deli? This was
no,
not
John,
any random deli.
I believe, if I remember the victims specifically, there were not all victims of one background or one nationality.
Does the administration believe that this was an anti-Jewish or an attack on the Jewish community in Paris?
I don't think we're going to speak on behalf of French authorities.
Well, she was wrong about that. She said there were people from other backgrounds. All the people who were killed at the supermarket were Jewish. We all know the gunman, the terrorist, Islamic terrorist, called a French television station and said he was attacking that store because it was a kosher deli. The world knows it wasn't random. Those people were targeted, and the White House looked embarrassed for coming up with that word salad.
And when you're embarrassed, what do? The age-old thing. Go to Twitter and apologize for saying the wrong thing over and over again and making the people who question you seem outrageous in their assumptions. Welcome to the land of unforced errors. For example, Josh Earnest came out after the briefing after Ed Henry and Jonathan Karl got a hold of him and says, our view has not changed. Terror attacks at Paris kosher market was motivated by anti-Semitism. The president didn't intend to suggest otherwise. That would have been fine to say, and you wouldn't have had the 20 minutes of sparring.
Right, and out of the State Department, Jen Psaki decided to get on Twitter as well, saying this: we have always been clear that the attack on the kosher grocery store was an anti-Semitic attack that took the lives of innocent people.
I think that when this day started yesterday, and on this program we were talking about how outrageous it was that the president said it was random, because it clearly wasn't random. Then the White House put together their talking points, distributed them throughout the administration. Everybody stuck to them until there was such pushback from the mainstream media. It's kind of like, you know, we can hear you. You're making that stuff up. And then they should just call them spokes-tweeters because you wind up getting the real truth from the tweets after they talk.
You know what this shows me? There's no system. There's nobody sitting there to the president and say, hey, you got to walk back that statement you made about random, or else we're going to be backtrack. We're going to have to define it all day. Instead, they try to explain it all Tuesday, and then they have to backtrack later on Tuesday. There's nobody in the White House to tell the president, go with my instincts, not yours.
But I think it could be the president. It's how the president feels. Yeah. It was a random thing.
It doesn't seem like anyone...
He's being so careful not to say Islamic terrorist.
It doesn't exist, right? If you don't name it, there's no failure.
I just think that Josh Bolton, Andy Card, or Leon Panetta with Clinton would have stopped this and wouldn't have let the things go wild all day.
It was a mess, but they've tried to fix it. Will it continue? We'll keep you posted. In the meantime,